President Trump says he will suspend immigration from, quote, all third world countries following the shooting of two National Guard members in D.C. The suspected shooter is an Afghan national who was brought to the United States in September 2021 alongside thousands of other refugees as U.S. troops withdrew from the country. And joining me now are political contributors Terry Sullivan and Joel Payne. Terry was a campaign manager for Marco Rubio in 2016, and Joel, chief communications officer for the progressive policy advocacy group Move On. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Terry, I want to start with you. Our polling taken earlier this month before this attack shows overall 45% of Americans approve of President Trump's handling of immigration so far. So how do you see these recent announcements impacting that?
Look, America is first of all, the greatest country in the world, and that's why people want to come here. And we have a big heart, and we allow people to come here. But as guests, and it's not their right. And so I think Americans get very tired of feeling like they're being taken advantage of, or even in this case, tragically abused. So I think that that's where the Americans have support for these strong immigration policies is, look, let's invite people. Let's have, open arms and big hearts, but let's not be dumb about it. And let's not let violent people into the country or people who want to take advantage of America.
Joel, I want to flip it over to you. How should Democrats be responding to this?
Well, a couple things. One, I think it's dangerous to conflate some of these issues here. Obviously, what's at the backdrop of this is the horrible crime that was befell upon those two National Guards troops in Washington, D.C., which resulted in the death of one, which is tragic. We're not talking, though, about all people who, originate from outside of this country having those instincts. And I think what has gotten Donald Trump upside down and what's had so many Americans not feeling good about how this conversation is unraveling is this idea, this disposition that people who are not from this country mean harm to us. Yes, there are people who commit crimes who don't originate from this country. There are people who are homegrown. There are people in our families, in our communities who commit crimes. We have to be able to have a cogent, level-headed conversation about how to make sure that when people come to this country, they understand the best parts of this country, but they also are not viewed with a jaundiced eye just because of where they originated from. And again, don't take my word for it. Donald Trump, this is a strong issue for him as he entered his presidency. It's an issue as he leaves the first year of his presidency that he's upside down on. And I think it's because that conversation has gotten way out of whack for the American people, and they do not agree. They may agree with Donald Trump's determination to address immigration. They don't agree with the treatment that he's applying to it.
Another big issue, obviously, for so many people out there is the economy. Terry, I want to switch it back over to you. Our polling shows that 60% of Americans think President Trump makes the situation sound better than it really is. So how significant of an issue do you see that disconnect?
Look, the economy is one of those things where you can look at what the stock market's doing, and you can look at all these outside barometers, but it's how it feels to you. And so when voters say, hey, the economy is tough for me at my kitchen table with my family, and when I go to the grocery store, Republicans need to listen to that. Democrats didn't with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden spent several years saying, oh, the inflation is transitory, it's not a big deal, and it in part cost him the election. And so Republicans need to be careful to not fall into that same trap, regardless of how the stock market is doing, how good the economy is doing. If the sentiment of American people is that at their kitchen table, it doesn't feel good, then it matters. It matters a lot. And that's what Republicans need to be. And specifically, President Trump needs to be careful of to feel their pain, as Bill Clinton put it.
Yeah. So how do you see that playing out when it comes to support of the overall economy, when so many Americans are really struggling to put food on the table, and then they hear the president saying that the economy is better than it's ever been?
Yeah, it's tough, though. I mean, look, sometimes it's less about the facts and more about how people feel. And that's why I think there's a careful way to nuance that, where you can tout the accomplishments, tout the facts that are on your side, but also say, but I understand that it's hitting people in the pocketbooks. I know what it is. It's going to take us a while to get out of this mess that, frankly, the Biden administration got us into with this record high inflation. And so that's not something you can fix in just a matter of a few months. And it's not something that a president just has the ability to wave a magic wand one way or the other and solve overnight. So this is going to take time, and I think that's what President Trump needs to be touting to Americans. Look, you got to be patient. This is going to take time. Things are good, but they're going to get better.
Joel, I want to flip it over to you. The affordability issue, obviously something that Democrats are following very closely. How can they capitalize on the obvious frustration many Americans have with the state of the economy?
It's interesting. I agree with some of the points that Terry made there, but there's maybe a conclusion that he and I are both reaching that's a little bit different. Here's where Donald Trump is really experiencing, like Terry said, what Joe Biden's experiencing. He's also experiencing what the presidency before Joe Biden, which guess what, was Donald Trump, what happened to them. I mean, the last two presidencies were consumed by economic downturn. Now, obviously, both of those were heavily impacted by COVID. But the American people are telling you this is not a partisan issue that we are identifying here. We think both parties have fallen down on how to speak to us economically. I think Republicans in the last election figured out how to speak culturally to the country on the issue of the economy, but they still don't have the fixes that the American people are looking for. And I think that's a lesson for both political parties. I think it's important for Democrats to talk up a positive, proactive message on the economy about things, if they are given power, that they are planning to do that are focused on working people. But it's an interesting observation that both of the last two presidencies, including Donald Trump's first presidency, were consumed by the economy just like he's experiencing right now. And I think that's a political lesson that all of us would be wise to adhere to.
So many Americans out there watching their wallets so closely, especially as we head into the holidays. Terry Sullivan and Joel Payne, wish we could continue this, but we got to wrap it. So thank you both for coming on. We appreciate it.